I did want to talk real briefly about Act 10. If you remember Act 10, that was quite a big deal a few years ago, and it seems to have settled down quite a bit, but it isn't over. There are still 2 active lawsuits going on out there, and we still don't know exactly where we're going to end up with this. And the main thing I want to say about it, and I'm going to keep this really short like I said, is that there's an active lawsuit out there by the Madison Teachers Union, which is still on the books, and the Madison Teachers Union won. And at least against the Madison Teachers Union, the school district cannot enforce Act 10 against them at this time. And they have also filed a contempt action against the state for trying to enforce this against other municipalities, because there's this judge's ruling that says you can't enforce Act 10 for certain things, for just a couple things. And so that's still ongoing. Now, my advice is, it's pretty much business as usual up here. I don't think we've seen many unions come and try to force municipalities to do anything. But I would say, just as a final piece of advice, if you do get a union coming to you making demands and saying, well, there's this case down in Madison that's still going on, and so you got to do this, what we say, I would just get to your lawyer right away on that. I wouldn't make any concessions to the union or say anything to them. I would just get to your municipal attorney as fast as you can. So other than that, a lot of us, we've seen our unions dissolve anyway, and if you don't have any unions, you don't really have to worry about that anyway. But if you still have unions and they're still making demands on you, I think you definitely want to talk to your municipal attorney. So that's my Act 10 update really quick. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Affordable Care Act now. I am by no means an expert on the Affordable Care Act, and HR is not really my strong suit, if I even have a strong suit. But I have, what is this doing here? But I have looked into it a little bit lately, and we do have an expert on the Affordable Care Act here tonight, as Adam mentioned, and her name is Jill Gores, and she's in the back there, and she works for J.A. Counter, which is a benefit specialist company. So if you do have questions, you want to collar her later and track her down and ask her some questions. All right, quickly on the Affordable Care Act. It was enacted over 3 years ago. So that, just over a year ago, it was upheld by the Supreme Court. So it is the law, and it is likely and parts of it are being enacted now. So whatever your political affiliation, or whether you like it or don't like it, there are certain things that have to be done as an employer. You just have to respond to this. That's what I'm going to talk about tonight. So the healthcare market is open, and in Wisconsin we don't have our own, so we go to the federal one, which is healthcare.gov. Sorry, it's jumping around on me a little bit here. So it's healthcare.gov is the website, and on this website, at least in theory, you can now apply for health insurance through the marketplace. And I understand that it's been a little slow because there have been literally millions of people trying to access this website, and that can slow down a couple servers. But in any event, it's out there. Now, there's one thing that every municipality should have already done. If you didn't do it, you need to do it. There was a deadline on October 1st, 2 days ago, to give all of your employees a notice. Now, it's a very simple notice. It isn't very complicated. And the Department of Labor, the Federal Department of Labor, did put together sample notices, which are, really, like I said, very simple. This is just a standard boilerplate language on the front. You don't make any changes to that. On the second page, depending upon whether or not you're a municipality that currently offers some sort of health care coverage or not, there's a different second page. So there's 2 sample notices, one for employees who do offer health care insurance now, one for employers who don't offer health care now. But you can go to the Department of Labor website, and I've got the link in the back of the materials, and you can get those sample notices. Now, I know a lot of our municipalities have already sent out those sample notices. If you have, great. You also need to keep sending them out. If you hire new employees, you need to give the new employees the sample notice as well. And if you haven't done it, there's no penalty for not doing it. I still would advise you to do it, so you probably want to get around to doing that if you haven't done it yet. Okay, so that's the first deadline. We're already past it. Like I said, the law is in place. Just checking my notes here. Okay, so what else does a municipality have to do besides that deadline? Well, if you're a large employer, you probably don't have to do very much right away, because as you've probably heard in the news, the employer mandate has been delayed by a year. So the employer mandate has been delayed to January 1st, 2015. If you're a small employer, if you're a small municipal employer, there really isn't anything you have to do right now. So there's nothing you have to do immediately other than get that notice out, which you already got out, right? Because you already made that deadline. But my comment on the bottom here is the law is very much subject to change. It's very much still up in the air exactly what's going to happen here. First of all, there's the law itself, which is something like 2,000 pages. Then the agencies who are responsible for implementing that law have to put out all their rules and interpretations, which will be another gajillion pages. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of changes and interpretations coming out in the near future about exactly what this means. So let me talk just a quick bit about what's a small and what's a big municipality. A big municipality is a municipality with more than 50 full-time equivalent employees. And a small municipality with 50 or more. So if you're at 50, you're a big municipal employer. If you're at 49 or less, you're a small one. Now, that doesn't mean you have 50 employees, 50 human beings. That means you have 50 full-time equivalency positions. An equivalency position is a mathematical formula that determines how many of those you have. So the first thing you do is you count how many actual full-time employees you have. And a full-time employee is someone who averages 30 hours a week. So you count those, and let's say you get to 30. Well, you're not done. Then you look at all your part-time employees, and you count all the hours they work in a month. And you divide that by 120. And that gives you your FTE, your full-time equivalency. And then you can figure out how close you're getting to 50 or not of the FTEs. So it's not 50 people, it's 50 FTEs, and there's a mathematical formula for figuring that out. Now, there's also some exceptions, and there's some complications to that. There's a really good article in the September issue of the Municipality. If you're a town, you might not get this, but you might want to get a hold of that article. It's on the League's website. This is the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. Good article in here on determining whether you're a large or a small and counting to 50. And I mean, most of us can count to 50, but not under the federal government rules. So you probably want to look at this magazine article and work through the formula if you're anywhere near that. If you only have 5, 10 employees, probably don't have to worry about it. There also are special rules on seasonal employees. I know a lot of municipalities will hire a couple high school kids to go paint the fire hydrants during the summer. Whether or not those guys are going to fall under this or not is not a black and white line. So you've also got a formula for figuring that out. That's also in this article that's in the League's magazine article. Okay. What have I forgotten? I'm trying to talk fast because I know we're running out of time here. I think I got all that. Okay. If you are a large municipality, then in 2015, you are going to face some rules and some penalties if you don't get involved, if you don't offer affordable, minimum essential coverage of health care. If you're under 50, and again, it's 50 FTEs, not 50 people, then basically you don't have any requirements at all as far as offering health insurance, and that just sends your individuals out on their own, more or less. So let's see. I got to back up and say one more thing. If you are a small municipality, I kind of skipped over this slide. If you're a small municipality, fewer than 50 FTEs, you don't have to offer health care coverage. If you already offer health care coverage, you can continue offering what you're offering. And I know some of the health care insurance companies have come to some of the municipalities already and said, hey, why don't you renew? And, that's sort of a policy judgment for you guys to make, but it might not be a bad idea to renew, because if you renew, you're going to get 12 more months, and that's going to push you out, into the next year, and you can kind of watch the dust settle while the other people work on it. So that might not be the worst thing to go ahead and renew at this time. Although it's really a decision for you to make, because, there's going to be winners and losers, and some of these insurance offerings are going to be cheaper than they used to be, and some are going to be more expensive. So it's really something to look into a little bit on a case-by-case basis. The federal government has also opened up what they call their SHOP exchange, and I've forgotten what SHOP stands for, but it's something about the small something or other insurance market. And if you're a small employer, you can go and shop for a group coverage plan for your employees on the SHOP exchange. Again, you get at that via the healthcare.gov website. And that's for employers, not for individuals. Okay. Okay, I think I mentioned all that. Now, there is a mandate coming on January 1st that, if I can make a big general rule, it says everybody in America has to have health insurance coverage, okay, by January 1st. So if you have to have health insurance coverage, either you can get it through your employer, then you're done, you don't have to do anything else, or you're going to have to go buy it somewhere. So if you're in Minnesota, you go to minsure.gov. If you're in Wisconsin, you .org, minsure.org, O-R-G, sorry. Thank you. And if you're in Wisconsin, you go to the federal government one, which is healthcare.org.gov. No, I'm mixed up. Gov, org. Anyway, I've got it in the back of the book, and I'm pretty sure I typed it right, so if I said it wrong, just read it in the book. Okay. If you don't, if you're an individual, and again, this doesn't really affect municipalities directly, but it'll affect your employees if you don't offer health care coverage, they're going to have to pay a penalty. And the way that penalty works is that will be figured out on your 2014 tax form. So you won't really know what your penalty is until you get all the way to the end of the year. Although there are some ways to sort of determine that and figure it out in advance if you want to. And also, if you're an individual, there is a subsidy for low income, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but if you're like within 130% of the poverty level, you're going to get a subsidy, and so your health insurance is going to, based on a sliding scale, it's going to be cheaper, more expensive, more expensive, more expensive. As your income goes up, your health cost will go up. Okay. So a couple more points I want to make real quick. The only thing that's been delayed is the employer mandate. Everything else has been implemented or is being implemented in 2014. So all the stuff about pre-existing coverage that you've heard, that's coming into play. Stuff about coverage for children to age 26, that's coming into play. Lifetime annual limits, women's preventative care, and Medicare payroll tax increase on higher income earners. All these things are coming into play in 2014, unless, of course, the law changes, and the law is subject to change. And as we all know, it's still being argued out there in Washington, D.C., and who knows who's going to win that one. Okay, the last few pages of my presentation, I'm sorry to have talked so fast, but again, we're running late, and I started behind, so I'm trying to finish in 15 minutes. I've got some places where you can go for more information. For starters, if you're a municipal clerk or a treasurer, your district meetings coming up very soon are going to have presentations on this by Jill, who's in the back of the room. And she'll go into a lot more detail on how all this works. I've also put a couple websites in here. The Wisconsin Towns Association, right on their homepage. You just go to the Wisconsin Towns Association website. Right on their homepage, they have quite a bit of information about it. The League of Wisconsin Municipalities, right on their homepage. And, if you're a city, you can still go to the Towns Association website. And if you're a town, you can still go to the League's website. So all that information is still there for you. The federal government, healthcare.gov, that's not just a place to sign up for things, that's also a resource of information. So you can get a lot of information off of there. The Federal Department of Labor has quite a bit of information. Again, that link is in there. And the IRS has quite a bit of information because the IRS is going to be involved in implementing this as well. DHS, which is our Wisconsin department agency, has a bit of it. And finally, and this is something that Jill alerted me to, and I took a look at this, and it's pretty interesting. There's an organization called the Kaiser Foundation, which is a just a nonprofit that's involved in providing information on healthcare. They have some really good calculators on their website for sort of figuring out how this is all going to really work on an individual basis. So you can go in and plug a few numbers in and just kind of figure out where you stand on this sort of stuff. So with that, I am done.